Welcome back to Reading Sprints and Chai Sips. I'm your girl Sasha Bonet, and I am so excited for this video. So last year I went to Southern Hearts and Signed Kisses. It was my first book event ever as a grown ass person. It was my first event and I enjoyed it tremendously. It was only about an hour and like 15-minute drive from my home in Georgia to South Carolina. So it wasn't that bad of a trek to get there, but I had a great time. And me in between Paperback Worlds, Karen, we went together and we had such a great time that we came up with this idea together. I think her video might be out by the time you see mine, but we weren't prepared when we went, right? So let me explain what I mean when I say we weren't prepared. We went expecting to meet our loved authors, right? Our beloved authors, the ones that we've read their books and we enjoyed them. I also went to find new authors. If I haven't read your book or if I haven't seen your face, let me buy something from you. And there's so many authors that I did that with. And there were authors that I didn't own anything, but I read from them either on KU or maybe from the library. But I did buy books from authors that I never read before. I met authors that I had never spoken to before. I took pictures. I had a great time. But like I said, we were not prepared because you don't want to go and not know what you're about to spend your money on. Some books can be hits and misses, and some authors can be hits and misses. And just because an author is your fave does not mean that sometimes they write something that you are not 100% on board with, that you're like, ooh, I could have did without this book. But you bought it. Now it's yours. And unless you unhaul it, give it away, gift it to someone else, it now belongs to you and you spent your money on it. So this year we wanted to make sure that we were more intuitive with our buying when we go to Southern Hearts and Signed Kisses. I can't wait to go. I bought my tickets immediately when I got the email like, hey, they're on sale. Tickets were bought. So we already know we're going in October. I hope to see some of you there, but there's so many authors that are going to be there. Some I've read from, some I've bought from, some I met, some I took pictures with, some I know have great stories to tell, but I just don't know them yet. So that's what this video is for. It's going to be a series of videos up until October. So to get to know some of these other authors and to get further into other authors' catalogs. So the 4 authors in this video that we're going to focus on, I have my iPad right here so I won't forget. We have Iesha Bree. And I bought 4 books from Iesha Bree at Southern Hearts and Signed Kisses. I've never read a book from Iesha Bree, but now I have 4. And I was specifically waiting for me to start these videos in order for me to dive into her work. So the book we're going to get to by Iesha Bree is Strummed. And I can't wait to get into it. And like I said, I met Iesha Bree and she signed my book. So this is the first book for this video. The next author we're going to get into is Kimberly Brown. I do not own any books by Kimberly Brown, but I have read 3 books by Kimberly Brown. I've read For His Pleasure, which I did not like. I gave 2 stars. It was he's a virgin and she's into a whole lot of different kinks, but it still seemed very, very icky to me. Rhythms Blues, I gave 5 stars. I enjoyed it tremendously. And then you have The Expiration Date, which I gave 3 stars. So now we have an author that I've read from that I've given 5, 3, and 2. So I need at least one other book because now I know when I go to Southern Hearts and Signed Kisses, Rhythms Blues is a book that I may pick up from this author because I gave it 5 stars and I don't own it. But I want more from this author. So I'm going to read in this video The Point of Exhale. I'm reading it on my Kindle, my handy dandy Kindle. My stickers are all askew at the moment, but this is my Kindle. I will be reading Kimberly Brown on my Kindle. Next, we have Monica Walters, who is one of my favorite indie writers, and she chef's kiss when it comes to writing, but I've only really read one series. I'm in that series as we speak. So I'm going to be reading Love Me Senseless by Monica Walters. This is the 5th book in the Barrett family series. And it is a series that starts with the father, and he has, I want to say, 5 kids. One is a girl and the other 4 are boys. And he marries a woman who also has 2 kids, and her kids are boys. And one of her sons went to school with one of his sons. And so we follow the father's story in the first book. The second book is the daughter's story. And then we go through all of his boys and then her boys' stories. And then it continues from there. And I love it because you get to know each and every one of the characters in this series. You fall for them. You dislike them. You want better for them. I enjoy this series so much that I'm going to continue with this series. So that's why this one is in this video. So we have those 3 authors. Yeah, that's our TBR for this video. 2 physical books, one on Kindle. Let me know if you've ever heard from any of these authors, and if you haven't, now's your time. Now's your time. We could be reading right alongside each other with all of these books, but I can't wait to dive in. I'll see you when we start our first one. Hey y'all, I'm here for our first update of The Point of Exhale by Kimberly Brown. I finished it. I listened to the audio on Libby, and it wasn't a long one. It took me a while though because I was reading other books and I kept putting it down, but I gave it 4 stars. It was really good. It does have domestic violence in it, and yeah, it is an urban romance that I enjoyed. I enjoyed her kids tremendously. She is a woman with 2 kids, an older boy and a younger daughter named Imani. I can't remember her son's name, but 2 very good kids. He is, I think, 13 or 14, and her daughter is like 6, 7, or 8, something like that. And they are just the cutest, most adorable children. And usually I don't like kids in books because they are there to drive the plot most of the time. Like, look, he's a single dad. Cute kid to come in and say something crazy. But in this book, the kids are really, really well utilized, and they're not just there to move the plot along or to show that she's a good mother. But I enjoyed it. Safari as a guy, as our MMC, he was okay. He had his moments where I was just like side-eyeing a little bit, like, where we going with this Safari? But his name is Safari, and I just think I've never heard of a man with the first name Safari. There's a first time for everything. But I really did enjoy it. He has a chip on his shoulder, a rightful chip, okay, because him and his mother do not get along, or not that they don't get along. Something happened when he was about 8, and he has never gotten over it, which there's a reason for that, and I understand wholeheartedly. And she's on the run. So he has mommy issues, and she is on the run with her 2 kids. They meet happenstance at a Walmart, and sparks start flying from there. Actually, she can't stand him because she feel like, you're a little bit too cocky, you're a little bit too mean, calm it down. And he tries to fix that a little bit, and then things move forward from there. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. So Kimberly Brown, so the 2 books that I know for a fact when I go to Southern Hearts and Signed Kisses, if she has them either there or I can pre-order them to be there, will be Rhythms Blues and Point of Exhale. So now we can move on to our next book. I don't know which one I'm going to read, but I'll let you know when we get there. So while we're doing this video highlighting some of the authors that will be at the Southern Hearts and Signed Kisses event this year, I met one of the authors, Aubree Pynn, but she was such a sweet soul. And last year in December. So technically, these books were bought in December. They just arrived, but she was having a sale on her website. I bought the books and they finally came. However, they've been here for about a week and a half. I just haven't had time to film this. So let's do a book haul. Technically, again, bought them in December. They just came. So this does not count towards any books that I will buy in January. But I bought this beautiful Maybe for the Summer. Look at that cover. Look at that. And it's hardcover. And it's signed by her. And I can't wait to read it. I have read a few Aubree Pynn books, and I've technically read 5 Aubree Pynn books. So including these, it'll be 9. And I can't wait. But Maybe for the Summer is one of her newest works, and I can't believe I was able to get it before it kind of sold out in hardcover. And technically, I don't know what any of these books are about. I looked at covers, I looked at how new they were, things like that. But Everything is Love, also by Aubree Pynn. I love this cover. This one reminds me of kind of like 90s movie posters or whatever, how they used to do the 90s black movies. This is what this gave me, so I was like, yeah, let me get that. I can't wait to read this one. And then I have Home Season, the novella, part 1 and part 2. So homecoming season. I'm saying home season. Homecoming seasons 1 and 2, and 1 is a novella. 2 is way thicker, and I cannot wait to read these either. So as of right now, that is kind of like a book haul in the middle of filming these videos and reading these books. Now back to reading. I finished both these books. Now I'm going to update you on this one. This is Strummed. I finished it. I'm going to give it 4 stars. This book made me laugh out loud multiple times because the banter back and forth was just funny. I enjoyed it. So I will be continuing. I kind of, not saying I don't have a choice, but I own the other 2 books in the series already. So I'm going to continue reading this. I enjoyed this. I don't enjoy music in books though. And he sings and she plays, or she sings as well and plays instruments, and that doesn't come across like I always say in books. But I did enjoy this, and for some reason, I don't know why, but I thought this was more about her family. This is a series about his family. So our main character, Harlan, and what is his name? And True. His actual name is Struman. And I was just like, true it is. I think the next book is his sister's book, and you find out why when you read this, because this has most of the POVs are Harlan and True, but then you also get 3 other characters POVs in this book. So I do believe the next book would be True's sister, and I don't know how I feel about that, because if it's a second chance, I'm already destined not to like it. So I hope it's good. But with this one, I totally recommend at least the first book in the series. Next up, we have Love Me Senseless by Monica Walters. And this is a reread for me because I started to read the series over. Because the first time I read the series, it was on Kindle, and I needed to know if I enjoyed it just as much. So I read the first 4 books in the series last year. Again, they all were rereads. So this one was also a reread, and I enjoyed it. This is a second chance romance where we're following the children, to start off with, of the patriarch of the family, the Barrett father. And this is one of his sons, his oldest son, I do believe, Isaiah. And Isaiah and Joy, who is also, because it's dual POV, who is also our FMC, They met in college. They didn't have a actual relationship. They had kind of like a situationship where they slept together, they hung out, but neither one of them were in a relationship. Even though she had fallen in love, she didn't tell him. She didn't show, like, she didn't outwardly say anything. But it is years later, I think like 15 years later, and he's been pining after her for so long because he left her in a situation that he regrets now. And when they meet up, she's not in a good place, and she never found love, because of the depression and the downward spiral that she was in after they broke up or after they stopped speaking to each other. He kind of like ghosted her, and you find out why in this book. Um, I'm giving this one a 3.5. I don't like second chance romances. I don't like second chance. One, I don't like second chance romances. And just because I do think the characters are nice or good people or whatever, doesn't mean that they need to be together. And because I do love Isaiah as a character, and I do somewhat like Joy as a character, I could see why some people would love them together, I guess. But for me, I was in and out of the story. It was okay. It was okay. Once you read this and you know what's all going on in this story, you will understand. But the Barrett Family series by Monica Walters is not to be read as standalones. Even though I think somewhat you can, they're not to be read as standalones, because what you learn about in the first book is a continuing story throughout. What you learn about in the second book is a continuing story throughout. All of the characters in this family, all the members of this family, play tremendous parts in every single book. So do not read them as standalones. Start with the first book, Love on Replay, and then move forward from there. But this is a great series, even though I don't necessarily am 100% in on Isaiah and Joy's romance per se. But their journey was a good, like, I enjoyed reading about their journey, reading about who they are as people now, who they were back then, how they handled the situation that comes up in this book. I enjoyed all of that. So I obviously will continue to the sixth book in this series, which I also have read already, but I don't remember. I remember this one, Isaiah's book, more than I remembered any other, and the first one more than I remembered any other book, because of the situation in this book was kind of heavy. So I do remember, I did remember this one more, but I do not remember the next one, even though I did read it. So it is going to be a reread, but Monica Walters is a fave of mine for this series alone. When I first read this series, the start of the series, I was like, Miss Ma'am could do no wrong, so Miss Monica's bring it to the front. Thank you for this. But she also has another series called The Henderson. I think it's The Henderson Family. And it has about 18 books in it, and I can't do it. Like, I want to read this one, though. I want to get caught up in this one before I start any other family series. We've officially finished the first episode and trying to read all the books from the Southern Hearts and Signed Kisses authors. They've recently added about 4 or 5 more authors. I've added them to my list, but I don't know if realistically I'll get to all of the authors that will be there. But I plan to at least get to a lot of them. But that is all I have, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.